over 15 years, it becomes apparent how many regulators are ill-informed and deal more in their own personal opinions and biases over the truth. This video takes a short look at real situations brought on by bureaucratic mismanagement and the frustration of the mining community in dealing with the inaccuracies and distortions to work their way into the process of making rules.
The commissioner has the authority to authorize something that's illegal.
Did he give you any indication of why you couldn't do the permission note type thing?
Well, he said that the attorney said that the prospecting regulations, either we had to designate a recreational prospecting area, which is a several-month process, and we didn't have time to do that, or we had to enter into a lease. So
why does the RCW state that there's other options? And you said
I can't, honestly, I'm not an attorney, and I don't have them in front of me, so I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
In Washington state during the summer 2003, Department of Natural Resources closed all state waters to prospecting, without any formal process. This unusual illegal step brought about oversight by the state legislature. The hearing in front of senators the following miner made references to how hard it is to get the scientific background on fish and wildlife rules, which came out in 1999.
I was told that the records were in the agency's files, but of the 4,000 pages, it would take them 7 to 10 days to find them. No problem. A couple weeks go by, and I write again to Ms. Turcotte, the public records officer. And now she says that if I want the studies, they will give me all 4,000 pages because they are not sure which studies I would find valuable and which ones I would not find valuable. So they're going to have me sort through 4,000 pages to find the study that they should have had at their fingertips. They have no index for the 4,000 pages of studies and information. How completely unscientific. I could say I have a library behind me to support my position. That's not an argument. That's absolutely not an argument. Yet that is the argument the agency gives.
This makes the first point this miner points out clearly: inability to translate scientifically structured arguments to their rules by regulators. Northwest Miners Rally in 2003, mussels were found at the dredge site by state biologists. At the same time, the Department of Fish and Wildlife assigned a biologist to work with us on our concerns. Through the process of meetings and open dialogue, some common ground was reached and the community was hopeful that key issues would be addressed. This was short-lived. Eventually this biologist was pulled from our issues, and later she was given some medical leave, which resulted in early retirement, and a new replacement was hired, who in the director's report stated that the Northwest Miners Rally be shut down or moved. This statement was found out by the mining community by accident. Some miners attended a commission hearing saw the statement in a director's report to the commission. Additionally, none of the organizers of the rally had been given any heads-up to this direction. This makes our second point: bureaucracies tend not to communicate well with stakeholders, that they are controlling and yet freely pass information amongst themselves. Additionally, replacement individual was focused on the mussels issue, and the perceived negative impact of dredging. The mussels issue was addressed at an commission oversight meeting in Moses Lake, Washington, where a rally organizer talked about the mussels issue and explained what the previous biologist, working with the community, had come up with.
It seems like now that I read this on the director's report that the agencies are taking turns going after the rally. I am kind of disappointed. We heard this morning from Chris Parsons. She talked about the mussel issue, and that was one of the deciding factors for recommending the rally not being held in the same place. I'd like to read just a brief statement from her predecessor about the mussels specifically. The permit says that we have to follow, when we encounter live mussels, we have to relocate 200 feet away. Her predecessor says this regulation appears excessively protective from field observations gathered at the rally. She goes on to recommend 3 potential changes to that regulation. It says, do not disturb mussels when dredging, omitting the requirement to move 200 feet from the mussel site. considering how they are distributed in the rivers, loosely distributed and not found to dense mussel beds. This would meet protection needs and not be so onerous. Or, due to the fact mussels are not as heavy as bed load being processed through a suction dredge, do not appear to get buried by tailings and seem to relocate fairly quickly, delete this regulation for protecting mussels. And the last one was just consider a regulation that states do not remove freshwater mussel from the water habitat when prospecting.
This makes our third point. Within any organization there are some extremely competent people working, who are trying to do the right thing. Additionally, these individuals must play by the rules within any given bureaucracy, or face some form of censure. So be careful not to wholesale discount each individual within the system. As for the biologist who was given early retirement, we later had additional feedback about the situation. We had reliable information previous biologist was forced out by other biologists, because she was not towing the line of the department. We could never prove this point, yet an inside source related to us there was an internal legal process that went on. This makes our fourth point: the system will protect the general consensus and direction from the administrators, no compromise. Continuing on with the mussel issue, in 2006 the Department of Fish and Wildlife put together a study on the effect of dredging in freshwater mussels, in which Resources Coalition helped supply dredge and personnel to assist. This can be found on the internet by searching the following: some effects of suction dredge placer mining on the short-term survival of freshwater mussels in Washington. This study was to see what the effect of mussels would be going through dredge and being buried in a dredge tailings pile. They built baskets and buried the mussels, both control and the ones that passed through the dredge, and observed them for several weeks. There was no fatality in passing through the dredge. There was a 13% fatality rate over the course the study being entrained in baskets, the simulated tailing piles. The mining community quickly pointed out that baskets did not simulate tailing piles, that the methodology of this study was flawed. This was ignored, and the conclusion is that the mortality rate was significant in nature in mussels being trapped in tailing piles. In 2003 we worked with the local biologist in running some mussels through a dredge, and observing the effect. This was caught on videotape both on the surface and with the underwater housing.
And we were wondering if they got buried in the tailings. So we're kind of watching that too. But they seem to spread out a little bit different in the tailings. You get your heavy rocks first, right out.
That's exactly right.
And then they seem to be floating off.
They will be the lighter material that goes over the top.
And so then we were wondering, okay, so if you stayed at the same spot for how much, or pumped how much, what kind of effect that is. So I'm glad we're going to be dredging here some more to kind of look.
Comments made at Moses Lake were a result of the joint work done by the former biologists and the mineral prospecting rally organizers. The study never addressed the concept of most mussels being lighter or throwing farther away from the tailing piles than being buried. This brings us to our fifth and final point of this video: be aware of the methodology used in studies that may in fact be used in regulating our community. If the methodology is skewed, result will also be skewed. Not all studies should always have equal weight, and should not necessarily be determined totally by the regulators. Part 2 will be coming out later this year and deal with the additional holes and bureaucratic understanding and mining issues. We hope this gives you a perspective of the difficulties the small-scale mining community goes through in order to protect its rights granted by federal law.